All right, guys, as you know, the future of Boston is essentially at like some levels of a crossroad, okay? On one hand, we have what I like to call the progressive status quo. On the other hand, we have Josh Kraft. And, you know, this is a guy with a billionaire's last name, but essentially his resume starts with sweeping the floors at the Boys and Girls Club. And I think there's a lot to say about that, all right? And of course, this is Robert Kraft's son we're talking about here, but he's also the guy that drove the van, you know, dropped kids off after school, and has spent decades working in neighborhoods that I think most people would potentially just drive past, all right? Now he's running for mayor of Boston, and he's promising bolder leadership. He's promising affordable housing. And to some extent, I think he wants to provide us with a city that actually listens. At least I hope, okay? Now, as you know, we're in a position where public opinion doesn't currently reflect what our current administration is doing, okay? We need to get away from that, right? But, you know, the real question here is, will this just be more the same? Or can we expect some levels of real change throughout Boston? Boston is an area that, you know, what they decide to do really translates to other areas of Massachusetts, okay? And I've talked about that quite a bit on other videos. So it's really important that Boston gets somebody in there that can provide real change and that could really listen to, you know, the people. Not just a section of people, but everybody, okay? It's a really hard thing to balance, to be honest with you. But it can be done, and it really needs to be done. I think we've gotten too far, right? Things have been the same for far too long. So a lot of people sent me this article from the Herald. I'm going to read it for you. And I didn't read it. I'm going to read it live right now. And I know there's a video at the end. People sent me the video as well, but there's a video embedded to this. So let's just get right into it. So it says Josh Kraft to kick off run against Boston Mayor Wu. Josh Kraft, son of billionaire New England Patriots owner and head of the family's philanthropic arm, has scheduled a formal announcement for Tuesday in Grove Hall to launch his candidacy for mayor of Boston. Kraft, president of the New England Patriots Foundation, will formally announce his campaign to challenge first-term Mayor Wu at Prince Hall in Dorchester at 11 a.m., his campaign said Monday. He also released a short video that his campaign says tells the story of Josh and his work in the communities of Boston over the last 35 years, identifies some challenges facing the city, and lays out some themes of his campaign, including a strong focus on housing. I'm Josh Kraft, the 57-year-old first-time political candidate says in the video. There's a saying we had at the Boys and Girls Club, I care. I care that Boston is heading in the wrong direction. How about that? I care that our region continues to leave many people behind. I care that the middle-class families are squeezed by the cost of housing, and I care that City Hall puts politics and ideology ahead of impact. That is a very, very, very good quote, and I think that both myself and you guys would agree with that. That's why I'm running for mayor, Kraft said, adding that his number one priority is to lower the cost of housing by building more housing. According to Kraft, Boston ranks near the bottom of all cities in America when it comes to housing, and he says we have to do better. I could not agree with that more. Housing is the key foundation for getting people that want to work into communities and to be able to support those communities. And without affordable housing, it really pushes a lot of people away. Strong leadership starts with listening. How about that? Kraft said in an apparent knock at the Wu administration, I will continue listening to people in every part of Boston because my life has taught me that you can learn from anyone. Changes come not from orders at City Hall, but by empowering people and communities. The video also touches on Kraft's roughly 30-year stint at the Boys and Girls Club of Boston, where he spent 12 years as president and CEO. The brief snippet portrays Kraft as a man of humility who truly cares about the community. providing a stark contrast to his position as a wealthy businessman and family ties as the youngest son of the billionaire New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft. Josh could have definitely gone into the family business, and rather than that, he chose a life of service. Isidra, God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I cannot pronounce your name. Quininos, maybe? A Roxbury native and director of volunteer of alumni services at the Boys and Girls Club of Boston, says in the video, he swept floors, drove the van, dropped kids off, ran the front desk. He was down to do whatever we had to do to make it work. It was his calling. Kraft's announcement comes about a week after he formed a campaign committee with the state office of campaign and political finance, his first official move toward joining the race after sources confirmed to the Herald that he decided to run. Political observers have pointed to a number of factors that could make Kraft a formidable opponent to Wu, 40, but he will face an uphill climb in Boston where no incumbent mayor has lost since 1949. So this would be a massive, massive upset if he were to win. Wu, a popular progressive, has $1.76 million in her campaign war chest, according to the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. The mayor already has endorsements from several labor unions, including the two largest city worker unions, and has regularly touted Boston as the safest major city in the country, given its low record homicide rate. She gave birth to her third child earlier this month and has said she plans to run for re-election. Wu won the 2021 mayoral election with 64% of the vote after spending 8 years on city council, including a stint as council president. Kraft, a Democrat, okay, so he's running as a Democrat, may be boosted by having near unlimited funds to spend in the race, more name recognition than many other first-time candidates, and ties to the community. Along with his past stint with the Boys and Girls Club, he is the board chair of the Urban League of Massachusetts, which is based in Roxbury. While Kraft's introductory video focused on affordable housing priorities, political observers expect him to capitalize on the perceived vulnerabilities of Mayor Wu on the campaign trail. Wu has struggled to push her bid to raise commercial tax rates to provide relief to homeowners through the legislature, where it has stalled twice already. She has also encountered heavy resistance to her public-private plan to redevelop Franklin Park's White Stadium for a professional women's soccer team, a project that is costing taxpayers $100 million and counting, and is subject of a lawsuit. Some political observers see Kraft's past connections and contributions to Republican candidates, along with his father's longtime connection to President Donald Trump, as potential vulnerabilities in a Democratic stronghold like Boston. The two factors were included in a poll testing how he would fare against Wu that circulated this past summer. He also just recently moved to Boston, having purchased a North End condo in October of 23 for $2.5 million after having lived in Chestnut Hill, according to the Suffolk Registry of Deeds. Wu's office did not respond to a request for comment on Kraft's campaign announcement. By the way, just so you know, I did not represent him in that transaction. Okay, I'm completely unbiased here. Asked last week about Kraft's candidacy on GBH Boston's public radio, Wu said she had not spoken to the philanthropist about his plans to run against her, nor has she seen him in many public events. Then she took a swipe at how his campaign announcement has been handled thus far. At some point when you're the candidate, you're going to have to speak for yourself and not just have the consultants do it for you, and be clear about what you're putting forward, Wu said. Wu said the last 12 years she spent serving the city in a public capacity reflect a candidate who knows the city and the issues that impact residents. Of course she does, because she is essentially one of the creators of those issues, right? Boston residents expect you to know what's happening, to have clear positions, to be able to get right there and very clearly explain how you're going to get things done and how you're going to make life better. You know, and she said up here, I just want to comment on one thing. At some point when you're the candidate, you're going to have to speak for yourself and not just have the consultants do it for you, right? That is so, you know, when you're first releasing a video, especially something like this, in my opinion, like it gives more power to your approach when, citizens or people that you've helped build you up, okay? And I don't know if Wu could get that same level of respect from people, right? And I think that's maybe why she's talking about that, where Josh has a long-lasting history of people that he helped, okay? I'm sure Wu can, right? But to kind of knock it, I just really don't like it, okay? By the way, this is the video.
Josh could have definitely gone into his family business, and rather than that, he chose a life of service. He swept floors, drove the van, dropped kids off, ran the front desk. He was down for doing whatever we had to do to make it work. It was his calling.
In 1990, Josh Kraft started working at the South Boston Boys and Girls Club, knocking on doors at the D Street projects to help kids get to school. Then he launched a new Boys and Girls Club in the basement of a public housing building.
He was trying to create spaces for our young people so they would have a safe space to go.
He truly cares about the community and the people that are in it.
He helped grow that Boys and Girls Club from a basement to its own building. Then Josh was asked to lead the Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston.
Josh doubled the number of kids we serve and changed thousands of lives.
Now, Josh helps lead one of Boston's top civil rights groups.
Josh is someone who's been doing this long before today. And this isn't fake, this is real.
There's a level of humility that he brings to the table. Josh has a calling on his life for this humanitarian work. Our city really needs somebody who's called to this.
This is someone who cares about us and my community.
Our neighborhood wouldn't be what it is without Josh's work.
I'm Josh Kraft. There's a saying we had at the Boys and Girls Club. I care. I care that Boston is heading in the wrong direction. I care that our region continues to leave many people behind. I care that middle-class families are squeezed by the cost of housing. And I care that City Hall puts politics and ideology ahead of impact. That's why I'm running for mayor. My number one priority is to lower the cost of housing by building more housing. Boston ranks near the bottom of all cities in America when it comes to housing starts. We have to do better. Strong leadership starts with listening. I will continue listening to people in every part of Boston because my life has taught me that you can learn from anyone. True change comes not from orders from City Hall, but by empowering people and communities. Join our campaign for more housing and more opportunity.
So I think overall the video is pretty impactful. Okay, anytime you have, you're helping. I have kids too, right? You're helping children. He didn't have to do any of these things, and my only concern. Well, there's a couple things here. So levels of humility are okay. Josh has a pretty unique. This is a pretty unique story, right? Because you have his dad. Okay, he's a very successful business owner. He grew up in that kind of family. Okay. My dad had a business too. All right. And the fact is, I think that when people are subjected to both sides of the spectrum, like the human aspect of the spectrum, the business aspect, you really need somebody in there that understands the two. But the hard thing is he going to make difficult decisions? Okay. That's one of the hardest things to try to get across, okay? Because sometimes when you're making difficult decisions and you're trying to put things forward, the fact is, there's going to be people on one side that it may affect negatively and people on the other side that it may affect positively. But I think that coming from that background of working with people, he has his father, he grew up obviously around the family business, knowing business. Look, government is business, okay? And I think that most people would agree, at least to this point, right? You need somebody that knows how to put these pieces of the puzzle together, and having that like business acumen is very, very, I feel like that's the way we're heading. Okay. Because it can't be, you can't have people in there that don't understand how to run your state, your city, so on and so forth. Like, somebody could say they know how to do that, right? But then once they get in there, they're getting pulled in every direction and getting told what to do versus telling people what to do. But when you come from that kind of background, and I don't know how involved Josh was with his father's business, so on and so forth, but the fact of the matter is he still grew up in or around that. So I think that gives him a leg up on top of everything else that's going on. I really do. But again, the thing is, when it comes to running a city or a state or whatever it is, as efficiently as humanly possible or as logical as humanly possible, what I see a lot of people do is they kind of throw that logic out the door. Okay. And you're trying to, again, you get pulled in multiple directions, and you're trying to satisfy, these people, this, and this, right? And becomes very hard. So as long as he's able to make difficult decisions for the betterment of everybody, okay, I think that would be a huge, huge thing. On top of that, I just want to comment about this as well. As you know, I'm very unbiased on this channel. He's running as a Democrat. I started to think to myself, people sent me this morning, and this isn't talking about Josh, by the way. This is just me talking in general. I often wonder, and I want to know if you guys agree with me. I wonder if, in order to get in to, Massachusetts is a heavy, heavy blue state, right? As is Boston as a city. So, I wonder if somebody needs to get in there and, have the views of potentially both sides here, okay? And run as a Democrat in order to even be considered, right? That has crossed my mind. I don't know if that has crossed your mind as well. What I'm trying to say is, would in this perspective, would Josh have a better chance of winning if he ran as a Democrat versus running as a Republican? I don't have the answer to that question, but I could tell you this much. In terms of everything that's going on, I think that both Boston as a city, Massachusetts as a state or Commonwealth, I think that things have been going, it's kind of like you're just on a roller coaster that never goes off. And I really feel like, especially people that are coming here from other parts of the country, once they get here and they see what's going on, I feel like they have a little bit of a better perspective, because I think things have just gone too far for too long. So I'm wondering if this, and Josh, obviously, maybe he is a Democrat, so on and so forth. I saw he made contributions to both sides, right? So the fact of the matter is, in order to kind of get to a position where you could even consider being elected, to start, this is the starting of making a change, right? Maybe perhaps you need somebody and I'm not saying I'm a Democrat or Republican, whatever. It really doesn't matter to me. But what does matter to me is change. But what I'm trying to get across to you guys, and I hope I'm articulating this as best as possible, the fact of the matter is, if he ran as a Republican, would he even be considered? Okay, because people here, I think, just go right down the one side of the ballot and that's it. They don't even consider other things. So is it a net positive that he's running as a Democrat in his chances to potentially get into this position? Or do we need a completely stark contrast, and do we need a Republican to run and their ideas and so on and so forth to get in? I'm not necessarily sure. Okay, I feel like Josh may be that kind of middle ground here. He's running as a Democrat, and perhaps he knows the only way possible for him to get in is to run as a Democrat. Okay, that could just be my opinion. I'm just thinking and talking at the same time here, but I've been giving that a lot of thought, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I should run." Listen, guys, I'm not running. Okay, I'm certainly not going to run. I just can't. I have too much going on. But the fact of the matter is, if he's able to unite people and build people up, and more importantly, make difficult decisions for the betterment of Boston, I think that's a huge win. And honestly, I don't know if he could potentially even get in there if he were to run as a Republican, or any Republican for that matter. Okay, I think they perhaps dipping the toe in. They have to run as a Democrat in order to even have or stand a fighting chance. So that's just my opinion. I could be, it just is what it is. That's my thoughts on this. Overall, somebody running against the mayor, Michelle Wu, I think is better than absolutely nothing. So as these, as more information starts to come out about this, I'm going to cover it because I think it's important. I think this is a pivotal moment here in Massachusetts and obviously in Boston as well, because I think that there's a high probability that Michelle may be in trouble here. Okay, she might be in trouble. There is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And as you know, based on my comments, I feel like the public opinion on her has just deteriorated over the years because of everything that is going on. And, the fact is, it is what it is. Okay, so we'll see what happens with Josh. And we'll take it from there, guys. That's it for today's video. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.